you don't think this is weird, but the fact that it's played by a black lady is weird. The man doesn't seem that clever in the movie, and it just doesn't make sense. Who the hell is this lady? Such a flat character. Like, acting is not a problem about this movie at all. Cheers. Bring a cup of coffee or whatever beverage, because this is gonna be quite a long video, I think. So, today's video is gonna be about the Odyssey, the movie that everyone is talking about right now. And before I start, I just want to say what my credits are. These are the books that I've read. Well, some of them I have. Actually, this is divided into three piles. These are the books that I've read. Ooh. And on top of this pile, I used to read a book, a cartoon series, very, very popular in Korea, called Greek and Roman Mythology by a Korean cartoonist. I grew up reading that, and as an adult, I'm still obviously very invested in the story, hence this collection. So yeah, that's my credit, and let's get into the movie. So I went to watch this movie 2 nights ago with my husband. We watched it in IMAX, and you know, there's a big meme going on online, watching the Odyssey as Christopher Nolan intended to be watched. And I was like, you know what? I know it's a meme, but I do want to watch it as it was intended. So I had to make sure we were watching it in IMAX. I don't even know where to start because I just have so much to talk about. The entire length of the movie, it's like 3 hours long. And I was just thinking the whole time, like I was so hungry when I got out because I was so focused and so invested in that movie. But anyway, like on the way home and when we got home, me and my husband, we talked about the movie for like an hour straight. So I got a lot of things out of my system. So that's why I wrote down notes, because I probably will forget some of the points that I want to like mention. But let's start with, I guess, the first impression of the movie. So initially when the movie started, my first impression was, I'm not sure if I was gonna enjoy this movie. And the reason being is it's a story that has been told so many times, and a story that's sort of well established, but at the same time, because it's such an old story and a myth, that there are so many interpretations and so many ways to sort of portray all the characters in the story that I wasn't necessarily agreeing with Christopher Nolan's interpretation of some of the characters. But also at the very beginning of the movie, it's very much like info dumping. I mean, it's kind of necessary, because even with that info dumping, the movie still turned out to be 3 hours long, and there were so many other characters that they didn't like delve into, and the movie is still 3 hours long. So initially, like, I don't know how long, maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, longer, shorter, I can't remember. But yeah, I just had to sort of admit the fact that, okay, this is just one interpretation of this whole story. This is his like image, his idea of how everything kind of happened. And it can be different to what I expected and what I imagined. So let's just watch the movie. I was like, okay, you know what? If I don't enjoy the story, at least let's enjoy the cinematography of the movie, because it looked good. I must say, like the whole movie, entire length of the movie, quite enjoyed the cinematography, the music in the movie as well. So yeah, I just kind of accepted that fact, and I was able to sort of enjoy the movie the more we got into it. And also I feel like the story initially, because of the info dumping, it's very, like the pacing is very fast. I wasn't like sure about that, but it does slow down as the movie continues, and I was able to enjoy the movie much more. But for people who don't know much about the movie, well, people who don't know much about the Odyssey and the Greek mythology, I think that fast pacing and info dumping was quite necessary, because there's just so much lore going on. It's quite impossible to make 3-hour-long movie on the Odyssey, because there's just so much going on. So I do understand that the info dumping was needed. So I'm quite well versed in the story, like the myth, especially around the Trojan War. I actually realized during the movie that I'm actually not that familiar with Odysseus, and the Odyssey, epic story in particular. I actually know more about the Trojan War, what led to that and what happened during the war and how it ended, but not necessarily after the war ends, what happens to Odysseus. I did read about it in that comic series, so there were quite a few things that I remembered and got reminded as the movie went on, but that kind of made me feel like I need to actually read the Odyssey. I don't know, the Odyssey just seems so overwhelming though. But anyway, that's something else. And there were some things that I was quite tempted to tell him during the movie that would have made more sense for him, but at the same time I also wanted to let him watch the movie as someone who has no idea of what happens in the Odyssey and in the Greek mythology, and just kind of see how the movie does for those people who don't know much about the Odyssey. Because it's a Christopher Nolan movie. It's not like a niche movie that's directly targeted to people like me. It'll be for sort of everybody. So getting that perspective as well was quite interesting. And he did say there were a few things that didn't make sense. And while I was watching, because I was actively sort of seeing what makes sense for those who are not well versed. And yeah, there were definitely some things that they could have elaborated more on. But as I said, there was just so much things going on that it was probably not possible for them to cover everything. But before we go into more of the movie, I just want to have a small section of this video where I talk about the backstory of the Odyssey. For those who are not familiar with it, but also if you're gonna watch this movie, knowing these things, these facts would sort of help you understand the movie a bit more. The first thing, and it was really at the beginning of the movie, but something that's relevant throughout the movie, is the concept of Xenia. Basically, it means hospitality. So the law of Zeus that they mention in the movie. This is not spoiler. Even though I did read someone saying that how can you spoil a story that's been around for so long. But I know that spoilers not good, and I personally hate spoilers, so in this section I'm not gonna spoil anything. So the Xenia thing. But Xenia is something a little more sacred than just hospitality, and it's not just for the host but also for the guests. It's that sort of respect and welcoming relationship between the guest and the host. And basically it's because there could be God amongst men, well, amongst, let's say, amongst human, amongst those who enter your household. And that's why it's so important that you had to be generous and hospitable for those who come and be your guest. And this is quite a big thing in the movie, because breaking Xenia, breaking the law of Zeus, is seen, I guess, like blasphemy. So that's quite an important concept that you have to be familiar with, I think, because otherwise it doesn't make sense. Why was I'm not gonna spoil. And the movie starts at the end of the Trojan War, not like actual end, but I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with the Trojan horse and all that, right? I think even people who are not familiar with any other Greek mythology, the Trojan horse thingy, that whole, oh my gosh, there's a horse outside, let's take it in, and then there are actually soldiers inside and they come out and they burn the city. I think that's quite a common knowledge, so we'll talk about that. Okay, so the movie starts with the horse, so at the end of the Trojan War. So I think it's quite important to explain why Trojan War happened as well. It's because Paris, a Trojan prince, took Helen from Menelaus of Sparta, and that's why the Trojan War happened, because Paris, who had a wife, took Helen, who had a husband, to his city after visiting them, breaking the Xenia as well, because, you know, as a guest, what the fuck, you took my wife. So he took Helen, and that's why the war happened. But the reason why the war was of such scale and why all these men came to help Menelaus bring back Helen was because of the oath of Tyndareus. So Helen is meant to be this most beautiful woman in the entire world, and all men wanted to marry her when she was of age, and everyone around the world, well, around Sparta, I guess, came to be the suitors for Helen. And actually, Odysseus suggests to Tyndareus, who is Helen's father, that, okay, it's gonna be really disastrous if Helen chooses one man out of all these men, because they're gonna be like, oh my gosh, let's fight, and there's gonna be a war. So Odysseus suggested that actually let Helen choose, but those other men who are not chosen, they have to swear now before Helen chooses that everyone's gonna be happy with Helen's decision, and if anything happens to her, or to them, I guess, but if anything happens, every suitor that was present there has to swear that they're gonna help Menelaus / Helen to come back. That's why that oath was such a big thing. And the reason why Odysseus suggested that to Tyndareus was because he wanted his niece, Tyndareus' niece, so Helen's cousin, Penelope. So he did Tyndareus a favor so that Tyndareus would give Penelope's hand to Odysseus. So that's sort of why all these men had to be there at Trojan War, and why it was such a big war and everyone was there for 10 years to make sure Helen goes back home and all that stuff. It was because of that oath. And the fact that it was from Odysseus is kind of crazy, because, yeah, 10 years of war and more. I think this is probably the two things that I kind of thought was important and sort of necessary for everyone to know before watching the movie. I think it still makes sense, but it just makes more sense, I guess, from the beginning. So let's now go into the actual movie, and there's going to be now spoilers, so if you don't want any spoilers, then don't watch it from here. In Korean, we say K, which stands for 캐릭터 해석, which means character translation / interpretation. So there were a few things that I didn't necessarily agree. I don't know agree is the right word, because these are all just interpretations and like your own imagination and interpretation. But there are a few things that I just, it didn't like sit right 100% with me, because this is just not what I expected of the character. So let's go through that. And first character that we have to talk about would be Odysseus, because he's the main guy. In my opinion, in this movie, Odysseus seems like just a strong guy. Sure, he's a hero, but that's that. Sure, he was clever enough to come up with the whole Trojan horse, which I can't remember if they even mentioned it in the movie, but like that's a whole big thing. You know, they were in war for 10 years, and this clever guy Odysseus comes up with this genius plan about this Trojan horse, and no one really goes like, oh my gosh, Odysseus, well done, we're in, it's your idea, well done, you're so clever, you're so intelligent. So that was quite quickly brushed over. But what I'm trying to say is Odysseus is a clever man, he's an intelligent guy, but not necessarily in a wholesome way, but because he was described as cunning as well. And I think that's like the thing about Odysseus, that he is a clever guy. And that's actually why Athena was so in favor of him as well, because of his cleverness. Athena, I feel like, is more known for a war of goddess of war. But she's also a goddess of wisdom and goddess of heroes apparently as well. That I didn't know, but she's a goddess of wisdom. That's why she sees herself, well, not necessarily sees herself, but she, I think, considers Odysseus as someone, as a mortal that is most sort of similar to her, and that's why she was helping throughout the movie. But anyway, we're talking about Odysseus. So yeah, he, I think in the movie, is portrayed as just a strong bruh, and that's just not him. I feel like, yeah, the fact that his intelligent side, his cleverness, it just didn't come across in the movie. He didn't come across as a smart guy who just outsmarts everybody and, you know, very tactical, and he's the one, you know, he's the brain guy. He's the one that talks a lot and gets out of the like situations because of this. But in the movie, I feel like he was just a strong guy, just known as another hero who's always so strong. So that didn't sit right with me. And I guess he does get more wise and more clever towards the end of the movie after his 10 years of coming back. So I can see that he does show more like the clever side of him towards the end of the movie, but the fact that Odysseus is just meant to be this clever guy and that didn't come across at all, I think was a little problematic because it just doesn't make sense. At least to me. The love between Odysseus and Penelope is also quite a big thing in the movie for that, like that romantic side, and also very emotional part of the movie, I think, is them being separated and like reuniting as well. And Penelope is also a wise woman. She's also very smart. She's very strong, like mentally. And I think the reason why she also loves him is because of the cleverness, but the man doesn't seem that clever in the movie, and it just doesn't make sense. So that I didn't really enjoy. And I can understand in a movie and him being the main character and he's the hero of this epic tale, I can understand why they portrayed him as this macho bruh. But yeah, it just still didn't sit right with me. The second character that I wasn't sure about was Cyclops. I mean, more so, not necessarily the interpretation of the Cyclops, but I guess why Odysseus took another 10 years to get back home wasn't too clear in the movie, I think. Or at least I didn't catch it, but I do want to say that there were a few lines, especially by Antinous, Robert Pattinson's character, that I just like, what is he saying right now? Like, I can't understand because of the accent. And there were a few like lines that I did miss because of like the language barrier. So I do want to mention that. What was I saying? Cyclops. So the reason why Odysseus took another 10 years to go back home was because he was cursed. Can I say cursed? Well, he got on the wrong side of Poseidon by harming the Cyclops, which is one of the like offsprings of Poseidon. I don't know if that was mentioned in the movie. I don't think so. At least Derek said, oh, I didn't know that, and that makes so much more sense. And also, the way they escaped the Cyclops also, I was like, but then again, I can kind of understand why, but in the actual story, in the Odyssey, or at least the version of the Odyssey that I read, they leave the cave of the Cyclops by like holding onto the sheep or the ram. I don't know if they're actually rams or sheep, but it's also another thing that shows how clever and so like out of the box Odysseus is, because he was like, oh, nothing works, but it's fine guys, let's just like hold on to the ram or the sheep, and that's how they escape the cave. But in the movie they don't do that. They just like put some hay on them and then they just kind of roll. And also the whole thing about the wordplay, I kind of forgot about this, but there's a whole wordplay that happens in that cave by Odysseus, which makes him seem clever again. This is the thing about the interpretation that I didn't enjoy. So the thing that they didn't show in the movie is actually when Odysseus tells the Cyclops, I think this is after he blinds him, but I'm not too sure about the blind, if he was blind then when this conversation happened, but I know that there's a conversation where it happens that the Cyclops asks Odysseus, or the men, what their name is. And Odysseus says, I'm no one, or I'm nobody. And this is a big thing because there's a scene where Cyclops is like in pain and he's like screaming, and there are other Cyclops that come to the cave, and the cave is closed with the boulder, and other Cyclops ask, oh, what's happened? Who's hurting you? And the Cyclops says, nobody or no one is hurting me. So the other Cyclops thinks, oh, okay, it's the brush just screaming, I guess, and then they go away, which makes sense and which is very clever of Odysseus. And this part is not in the movie. They don't like talk to him either, because Derek also mentioned that, oh, I thought he was gonna like reason with him or like talk to him, and yeah, that just didn't happen in the movie. And I think that was like quite a critical thing that should have been in, instead of just showing them struggle to fight this Cyclops. So that was another thing. The next thing that I want to talk about is Helen and Clytemnestra. And this, obviously, I heard about it before, even though I wanted to make sure I have like the least spoiler as possible. But the fact that Helen and Clytemnestra is played by one actress, and that actress is a black woman, went quite viral and got quite a bit of hate online. And what I want to say about this is that the fact that bothered me the most was the fact that they were twins, not necessarily that it was played by a black woman. I get that other people were saying, oh, you know, it's not a real story, and there's no like picture or anything, because it's not a real story, and it's just one interpretation. And why are you hating it so much that it was played by a black woman? I mean, the thing is that Helen is described as the most beautiful woman of the world because she's actually half Zeus's kid. Well, or at least it's told that she is Zeus and Leda's kid, and she was born in an egg. So people are like, okay, so she was born in an egg. You don't think this is weird, but the fact that it's played by a black lady is weird. So I get what they mean by that. But for me, the twin thing didn't make sense, and I did look it up afterwards. And apparently there are a few other interpretations, especially like modern interpretations that portray them as twins, which I think for me doesn't make any sense, personally. Because Helen is the most beautiful woman and she's not from same father. And that's like the whole thing also about Helen and Clytemnestra, that they are sisters, but one is so pretty and the other one isn't as pretty, or at least, I don't know if she's not pretty or isn't pretty, is what the general consensus is. But the thing about it is that one's pretty and one's like more Spartan woman. Or at least from this book, that's what I kind of imagined, I guess. But yeah, it's like a whole thing that Helen is just so pretty and the other one isn't. And that whole dynamic kind of disappears if you put them as twins. It just doesn't make sense. The next thing, I guess, is Calypso. In the movie, it's like, who the hell is this lady? Her character was just so flat, even though she had quite a bit of screen time. I think there could have been more to her that they show in the movie. I don't know too much about Calypso, because as I said, I don't know too much about the Odyssey. But Calypso, I don't know if she's a nymph or goddess or sorceress, but she's an immortal who's in love with Odysseus, and she wanted to keep him on that island because it was making him immortal if he was living on that island, apparently. So that also is just like, who's this lady who looks very out of place, and why is she keeping this guy in captive? I mean, she does say she loves him, but still, I feel like there could have been a little bit more. And speaking of sorceress, we need to talk about Circe in the movie. Circe in the movie, because I also read Circe, the book, and oh, great book. I mean, all these books I really enjoyed, obviously not the ones that I haven't read, but Circe, also such a flat character. She seemed so cruel and so, like, what she did looked very unnecessary, having zero context about her. She does say that they were gonna like do stuff to her and that's why she turned everyone into pigs. If I remember correctly, she's had incidents before where there were other men who were traveling on the sea. They came to her house, ate her food, and raped her and like took advantage of her, and that's why she became that skeptical, and that's why she was like very not welcoming. So that as well. Circe. I mean, her story could be a whole ass movie, I think, in my opinion. But anyway, another thing is Agamemnon, how he was also portrayed. I think they did somewhat good job of showing that he's this like big guy, arrogant, and this king of the kings, and you know. But the part that didn't really make sense for me was when Odysseus goes to Hades and when he gets help from all these dead soldiers, when he talks to Sinon and when he talks to Agamemnon, what Agamemnon tells him, I feel like he seemed too friendly. I don't know if that's the right word. I don't know. For me, like, image of my Agamemnon is rude, and he doesn't like put himself down in any sort of situation. If you know more about Trojan War, he actually claims Achilles' lady, Briseis. So for me, it didn't make sense that Agamemnon was so helpful to Odysseus. What I would think is that this guy is so proud and so egotistical that he's not necessarily gonna be like, oh my gosh, my wife fucked me over. Like, he wouldn't be like that, because he would be very ashamed that, well, first of all, he got killed by a woman, and secondly, he got killed by his wife. I mean, I think in the Odyssey, he does like warn Odysseus that, oh, you know, it's not hunky-dory when you go back, things can happen. And I get that, but he just seemed too helpful. I don't know what else to say, but it just seemed a little out of character. But I don't know, maybe he was, because people change when they die, I guess. Because even Achilles, who wanted to be the greatest of the warrior, when he dies, he's like, oh, I'd rather be like a farmer boy than a hero that died in the war so young. So maybe that's why, but just wasn't too sure about that. Oh, and Athena. Very flat character as well. She has quite a bit of a screen time, but she seemed too mortal for me. Like, sure, she like comes in and out, and like that whole like hallucination, I'm seeing goddess, that is obviously very not human-like, but like the way she carried herself, I wouldn't say this is Athena, at least for me, because I think all gods and all goddesses in Greek mythology are very egotistical and very self-centered, and they don't necessarily, how do I say it, like look out for other mortals unless they worship them very, like, how do I say it, like very religiously, I guess. So yeah, just the way Athena was very not goddess-like, I guess, to my liking at least. And she doesn't do much either in the movie. Because when he goes back to Ithaca and he comes as a beggar, actually Athena helped him to look like a beggar. And it was her doing of turning him into a beggar so that he goes incognito. And that also was lost, and she just seemed like this like fairy godmother than this goddess. So I didn't enjoy that either. I feel like I've just been saying negative things about this movie, but I did enjoy the movie. So I want to just point out a few things I did enjoy about the movie. First thing, I guess, would be IMAX. So the movie was shot entirely in IMAX film, 70mm film, I think. And I know that's like also a whole thing, because only very few places have that 70mm IMAX screen, and I think all the other IMAX screens are like 65mm, so you still don't get the full look. And I can see why people don't like that, but also at the same time it's like, whatever, it's his movie and it's his like artwork, right? So whatever he thought was the best to show and like get his image like come across, whatever he thought was necessary to sort of show his vision, it's his choice. So I think that's not really a problem. So watching it not at the 70mm IMAX, not the special IMAX, but normal IMAX movie, I really enjoyed it. So I'm not like that familiar with IMAX like cinemas, but I must say like we really enjoyed it. And I think the last time I watched it was quite a while ago, so I didn't like appreciate these little things. But what we realized when we like sat in our seats is that the seats are at an like angle that when you sit, the person in front of you don't obstruct anything of this on the screen, which is like so great. Because you know, when you go watch a movie and you're sitting behind someone who's quite tall, their head is like quite a bit into the like screen. So with IMAX, you don't get that, and it was so good. And you know, that big screen without any obstruction, I think just looks so great. And for this particular movie, which is about this epic story, that's that feeling of the big screen and that grandeur and that scale of the movie, I think it was just great. And because the screen is so big, there's so many like details that you can like watch, and there are a few like scenes where like the characters are in the middle like talking, and there's like a bird flying in the bottom left of the corner, and I think that was quite cool. So I did enjoy watching it in IMAX, and I am quite keen on watching it again. I did see a review saying that it wasn't necessary to be on IMAX because they found that movies that screen on IMAX should have like just so much information on screen that that big screen is necessary. And for a movie that has like quite a like quick like cuts in between the like scenes, that you can't really indulge in all the information on the screen because it's just not on for too long, which I can kind of guess what they meant by that, but I don't know, I think it's still better watching it on IMAX. Just I highly recommend watching it in IMAX if you're watching it. It's just different, that feeling, especially with the giants, you know, that famous scene, that poster scene of Odysseus in the middle and with all the giants coming like towards you. I think something like that, if you're watching it on IMAX, it just feels different. One of the scenes I really enjoyed was the storm scene on the boat, and I think that was also like so immersive and so like real because it was on IMAX as well. And I've heard people saying that this movie is loud, and it was really quite loud. There were like 2 scenes where towards the end I was just like doing this because my head was like, my ear was struggling. But yeah, the storm scene is really good, and even if it wasn't on like 4DX, I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually like holding on to the scene, like to my seat, because it's just so intense. And like that kind of that storm tumultuous scene, I think came across quite nicely, and also I think that was done quite well. And also just because this is not just like normal storm, right? He got this favor, how do I say, like the gods are not in favor of him, and this storm obviously is also by the gods, well, by I guess Poseidon, because Cyclops, remember? So I think that feeling of being like not in control because it's a storm induced by God, like that feeling was just so real, I think, in that scene. I really enjoyed it, as you can tell. And the movie being loud, sure, it was very loud, but that bass sound, that like sound was so good throughout the movie. And you can like feel it like in your bones, and it's just, I really enjoy that. And for someone who can't do loud like music, like I'm the type of person wearing earplugs when I go to club and music festivals. So I assure you, I hate like loud sounds and I like physically can't take it. But I think it was quite necessary in this movie because of that scale. I really enjoyed that. Another scene I really enjoyed was Circe sculpting the men into pigs. You know, this like the story of all these myths, they are like the overarching story and like, you know, what happens. Like I think even when I was reading Circe, like that they don't necessarily talk about how she turns them into pigs, which I mean they might have, I can't remember this, I read this quite a while ago. But in the movie, the way they did it with her like sculpting them into pigs, it was almost like the pottery kind of thing with her like humming the music and the camera work. I think that was really cool scene. I think they just did it well. Oh, I must say one thing I must say about this movie, at least for me, I find that the scenes varied a lot in terms of how much I liked it and how much I enjoyed it. Some scenes I was like, oh, this is so cool, I love this interpretation and how it's like done. And there were some other scenes I was like, it's okay, I guess. I kind of had to see it like that. Like when I said initially, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about the movie. And I was like, okay, I have to take this as his interpretation and his take on the Odyssey. I think that's why I also kind of separated everything by like different scenes. Another thing I enjoyed, and this is more so about the cinematography side of things, but there were a few scenes where Penelope is in like on screen and her face is covered, well not necessarily covered, but she's behind some sort of screen. There's like scenes where she's like behind like this lattice like screen. There's a scene where there's like sort of like a white wash in front of her. I think that was done really well. And like visually it was really pretty, but also just like her sort of like always stepping back as the wise, patient queen. And I don't know, I don't have the right vocabulary to explain this, but I don't know, I just thought that was quite powerful, I guess. I guess it's something that I can think about a bit more to sort of put my words down. But yeah, those scenes I really enjoyed. And the scenes with like Penelope and Odysseus together, emotion-wise, I think that was like the saddest part, I guess, of the movie. The love story between Penelope and Odysseus, that was also, I think, quite pretty and quite like, oh, so sweet. So that was quite nice. And I must say the acting in general was amazing. I mean, the cast was so good, but Robert Pattinson, is that his name? It is, right? The Batman guy, Antinous. His acting, oh, it was so annoying, and he did well being the annoying guy. When I said casting was good, I guess I mean more so that the actors and actresses in the movie are good. Like they're big actors, not necessarily like fit for all the roles, but yeah. But I think Anne Hathaway as Penelope was really good casting. Who else? No one really stood out that much, I guess. I mean, everyone was good actors though, so everyone's acting was good. Like acting is not a problem about this movie at all. What else? I really enjoyed the cinematography of the movie. I think I think that was quite obvious earlier when I was talking about that. But I think it's also quite cool that the movie was done entirely on film. And I'm not saying that this is something new. There are other movies that are entirely done in film, which I also think is very, very cool, especially in this world of AI. And you know, you don't know what is real, like whatever you're seeing on screen, you never know if this is like AI or not anymore. And in that kind of world, I think film done in film is very, very cool. I think that art, to keep that and going back to analog in this digital world, I mean, it's such a difficult thing to say, I guess. It's such a cliche thing to say, but I think it's very cool. And the music was cool in the movie. There were a few scenes, I think, where the music was really, really powerful, and there were some other scenes that weren't as much powerful. But in general, I enjoyed the sound, like the music of the movie. And the physical effect, I mean, I think it's quite a known thing now, but Derek didn't know. But that poster scene of Odysseus in front of those big giant soldiers, that was physical. That was like done in real life. Odysseus was played by another woman who was like 153 centimeters or something like that, and the giant was like 2-meter tall men who was acting as giant. So something like that, very, very cool. And I also read that the Cyclops, they had a puppet, like 6-meter tall puppet for it. It wasn't entirely like CGI free. I'm sure it was mostly CGI, but just having that puppet and using that in some sort of way to incorporate that physical effect that he was going for, I think was quite cool as well. I don't know what other things that they did. I think that is all I have to say. There were a few blogs and posts saying that this movie wasn't historically accurate. Like they were using the Viking ships and I don't know what other stuff, but I'm not like history or archaeology student or someone who studied that. I'm literally just ordinary person who just likes Greek mythology, so I might have said something that you don't agree with or not necessarily accurate. So if I did say something inaccurate, then let me know. But otherwise, as I said, it's just different interpretations, and this is just my review, my personal review. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed me nerding out about the Odyssey for like an hour, and hope you enjoy the movie if you're watching it. I think if you are interested in the Odyssey or any other like Greek mythology, you should watch it. I wouldn't necessarily say this is a movie that I would go like to watch again and again. Saying that, I am quite selective in movies that I go back to watch like over and over again. I rated this movie a 7 out of 10, so 70% for me. But I will probably rewatch it before it goes out of cinema. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my little rant. And if you're interested in the lore, these are the books that I can recommend. For those who stuck around till the end, I'm assuming you are quite invested in the myth. So if I can just go over quickly over these books. I read it quite recently, Mythos by Stephen Fry. It's not about the Trojan War or anything like close to the Odysseus story. It covers from the very beginning of Greek mythology about how all the Olympian gods came about and stuff like that. And he does have like Troy and the Odyssey, which I will read in due time. And this is quite funny as well and very episodic, so very, very digestible, very much like you can read it on the go kind of book. Madeline Miller's Circe and The Song of Achilles, I think these are very, very famous, very popular, especially I think this one. But I actually read Circe first and I really enjoyed her writing style, and that's why I got this book. And I enjoyed them both. very sad. I think I enjoyed Circe a little bit more, but they were both really good. So if you want to know more about Circe and more about Trojan War, then I read this. Clytemnestra, this is also very cool. I read this book, and even though this one's not about the Greek mythology, it's written by the same author, and I liked it enough that I read this one as well, and this one was also really good. If you want to know more about Clytemnestra and Helen and that whole Spartan story, then I recommend this book. This one is actually a 3-part story. So it starts with the silence of the girls, and then it's the voyage home, and the last one is Women of Troy. This one is about the Trojan War, but more focused on the women, and highly recommend this. Also, I really enjoy her writing style. It's very like vivid and very powerful. I really enjoy this series. Just need to finish the last one. 1,000 Ships by Natalie Haynes. I'm still busy reading this. This one is also a little bit episodic. It was quite funny because the part that I read like 4 or 5 hours before we watched the movie was about Odysseus and his men stuck in the cave with the Cyclops. So that was quite funny. So this one is also about Trojan War. This also, I really like the writing style, so I recommend this as well. And the last book, also a series, is actually a trilogy, but I don't have the 3rd book. This one is the first one, Ithaca, and the second one is House of Odysseus, and the last one is The Last Song of Penelope. So this one, actually, even though I got 2 books, I wasn't too sure about the writing style, just personally, but I did get into it. And the reason why I said I haven't read it yet is I read like 50 pages of this, and the book was like bound wrong. I was binded wrong. So it went from like page 50 to page 300. So I had to like take this in and get a new copy. And in the meantime, I read the mythos, and then I'm now reading this. So that's why I haven't read it, but I'm very excited about this as well. So I think I've yapped enough about this movie and the books. So I'll end the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon, probably with a vlog. Bye!